Hello, today we're going to be discussing how to put together a folding cane. This is a folding cane kit from Ambutech, and this particular kit is a 6-piece kit, and it is aluminum. Now you can also get the 5-piece kit, which makes your segments a little bit longer. The individual segments for this kit are about 11.5 inches. Joints on the cane are tapered, and there's one piece where the grip goes that is not tapered. And so that's how you distinguish that piece from the rest. And then you also get one smaller piece, and this is the bottom piece. You get the golf grip, you get the tip. In this case I chose the metal glide tip. When you order your cane kit, you can choose the different types of tips that you would prefer to get. I prefer to use a metal glide tip, and they're relatively cheap, around $3. You also get the reflective tape, and you also get the cord. And the cord is about 11 feet approximately, and that'll make more sense when I put it together. I'll show you. It's going to be doubled up and threaded through twice to increase the durability and the elasticity of the cane. So as we begin, basically what we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to put it together. Now the first thing you want to do is take your 6 pieces or 5 and put those together so you get an idea of what that cane is supposed to look like. So as we're doing so, you'll notice that this piece right here is not tapered, so that is the piece that the grip would go onto. There we go. And you'll notice some of these pieces I've already got the reflective tape on them, and then I've left some without them. Just to save time, I put reflective tape on all of them except for 2, and I'll show you how to put that reflective tape on to kind of limit any kind of flaws in the reflective tape, to decrease any air pockets that you might get. Okay, and there's the last piece. Okay, there we go. So these canes, they come in, the maximum length that you can get is 64 inches. Okay, I'm just going to take it back apart. So we've got reflective tape on 3 pieces. Something to note, you don't want to put reflective tape on the grip piece, obviously, because the grip's going to be covering it. Kind of silly to put reflective tape on it. And through trial and error, I've done that a time or 2. So, but what we're going to do next, I've got this piece down here at the bottom that doesn't have any reflective tape on it, and I'm just going to show you guys how to put it on just to make it really easy. And this reflective tape is double-sided, so once you get it pulled apart, this stuff's incredibly sticky. Just to make sure you put it so that the sticky side's facing up, and then when you're ready, okay, the joint itself will not be covered with reflective tape, so it's important to line it up and take your time. And I'm starting at the table and then just kind of rolling it onto this reflective tape. There we go. Okay, there we go. Now that I've got it on there, or I've got it started, I'm taking it and I'm just pressing my finger all the way across it, and then I'm just laying it back down on that table. Once I've done that, evenly place my fingers across the segment here, and then I'm just rolling it forward. That kind of limits any kind of flaws that you could have in your reflective tape, and you know, that just makes for a nice clean look when you get done. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this piece onto the rest of the cane that I've already got sitting over here, just to kind of remember my order. And then this shorter piece right here, this is the piece that I'm going to put, they've even given me some red reflective tape for the bottom. So I'm going to do the same thing again. Okay, there we go. Just get that all set up. Okay, I've lined it up. Then I'm just kind of rolling it on there just to get it started. Again, taking my fingers, pressing across the segment just to make sure that it's all taped on there nice and snug. And then I'm just rolling it across. There we go. And voila, there it is. Okay. Okay, now that we've got that taken care of, this piece, it's important to note that this segment only fits on in one particular direction, right? So it fits on that way, but if I turned it around, it just doesn't go. Okay, so that's something important to remember. Okay, so we know that this piece right here, the grip needs to go on like that. Now before we do that, we're going to take this cord and we're going to thread it through the golf grip going backwards. So essentially, when this is doubled up, this cord's doubled up. Let me just do that real fast. Okay, there we go. So you've got even length all the way to the other end, right? Basically, what you're going to want to do is you're going to take that golf grip. There's a hole in the top, and it goes all the way through. You're going to take it where it's doubled up, and you're just going to thread it through that hole. Now, a lot of the times when you get these grips, the hole is too small to double thread through. So what I do is I just take my keys, because it's something that I always have with me, and I just jab it in there and give it a good twist. Widens that hole up. There we go. That should probably do it. And then we'll just thread it through. Okay, it's a little tedious. And the reason I'm doing it this way with a solid loop coming out this end is because when I feed this through the cane, I have one solid loop. I don't have to worry about it coming untied where my cane tip is connected. And then I can just tie it off at the handle. And I'll show you guys how to do that here in a sec. Okay, there we go. Okay, so once I pull it through, there we go. I've got plenty of cord there. Okay, now we've got about this much, which I don't know, that's about a foot. I probably, since we're using all sections, we'll probably pull it up a little bit more to about a foot and a half. And then all I'm doing is I'm just going to tie it off at the grip, at the base of that hole, right? Okay, there we go. I want to make sure that I've got enough slack pulled out of this so that when I feed this through, this isn't hanging out the end. Otherwise, my cane won't collapse and work for me like it's supposed to. Okay, so once I've done that, I'm going to leave these two loose ends alone. And if I need to make adjustments, I can. And then once we get done with that, I'll show you how to tie this off so that I can bundle the cane up when I'm done. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to feed our first piece through. I'm just going to double check again, make sure this fits on correctly. Okay, which it does. So I know that this end needs to go in first. So then all I'm doing is I'm just feeding it back through this cord. Okay. And once this is on, it's not going anywhere. So there we go. Okay, perfect. And you'll notice I didn't put any reflective tape on this piece. I can always go back and do that if I'd like. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and feed the rest of the pieces through. Notice my joint that's tapered is going on first, right? Just to connect that solid to that other solid segment that I have. There we go. Okay, and so on. So we'll just go ahead and put the rest on real quick. Now you don't have to, I mean obviously I'm using the full length of this cane kit, which is the 64 inches. You know, you'll probably be working with somebody who's shorter than that obviously. So I mean it's a good idea to buy yourself a pipe cutter. Pretty easy to use. You know, you just select the length that the length that you want and then factor that in. You know, if it's someone who's short enough, for instance, like this last segment is 10 inches, and you're working with somebody who needs a 54-inch cane, you could just take a segment out of the equation. If it's maybe just a couple inches that you need to take off of it, just go ahead and use this. And I like to cut off the last segment. So back to threading our cane through. There we go. And we've got 2 more segments to go. Okay, now I'm getting to where it's a little bit more interesting, right? I should have this elastic pulling against me, otherwise, if I've got too much that's loose, it's just not going to collapse and fold back out for me like the way it should. Okay, so what I've done is I've just pinched it off with my fingers right here to create enough slack so that I can feed this one piece through, which can get a little annoying. There we go. Okay, I'm just feeding that through. Okay, so now once I've gotten that last piece through and I connect it, it's a good idea to have a pin nearby. Take that pin, stick it in that loop, and that just secures it. Keeps my cord from getting sucked through the tubing and then having to start over. Okay, so once I've done that, you can go ahead and take your tip, your hook tip, and I'm going to pull this back out, pull this out, and then basically all I'm doing is I'm just hooking it on and then letting it fit in to the end of the cane there. And you know, replacing your cane tips is really easy. That's one of the reasons I really like using the hook tip versus the slip-on tip, just because it is easier to replace. Another thing I like about the hook tip is I don't have to worry about it slipping off. That's one of the problems that we've had with slip-on tips in the past. Okay, so we're almost done. We've got the part up here that we need to tie off. Elasticity feels good. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to show you guys how to tie this. I've messed around with a lot of different knots. I like this type of knot in particular. This is just your basic slip knot. Basically, when I'm tying this, I'm just tying a slip knot. I'm leaving enough of a gap so that I still have about 4 inches of line on either side. And I haven't tightened it down yet so that I can adjust it if I'd like. Once you get it to about where you want it, you can tighten it up. There we go. And tighten the other side. Okay, that should do it. Okay, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to tie another slip knot. And it's important to really, really tighten these up so that they don't come undone. This knot does seem to work pretty well. Okay, so I'm going to give myself about, a little bit less than that. You don't want your loop to be too big or too small, but you want it to be able to bundle around that cane and be snug enough to keep it together when I fold it up. So you want to have about, a loop about the size of a golf ball, somewhere in there. Okay, and then I just tie it off. All right. Make sure it's super tight so it doesn't come undone. Okay. Alright, so I've got 2 loose ends up there. I'll cut these off here in a sec. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and test it out. So I'm going to fold it down. Okay. And then I'm going to pull this over. You'll notice I've got about a foot with just enough tug. And then I'm just pulling this loop over the cane, and then it keeps it together. This one's could be a little bit snugger, but that's the general idea. Okay, and then once I'm done, I'll let it unfold. There we go. So once I find a loop that I'm happy with, you can go ahead and trim off your edges there. Gives it a nice, clean, finished look. Okay. All right. And that's basically how you put a folding cane together. If you're trying to fix an old cane, I highly recommend just getting a good pair of scissors with a nice blade on it. You can restrip the surface and refinish it with new reflective tape. You can also take your elastic cord. If your cord will lose its elasticity over time, but what you can do is you can retighten it to give it more of that pop that you want, and then eventually you will have to replace it. This particular folding cane this folding cane kit was purchased from Ambutech, just one of many online dealers out there. Ambutech is pretty fantastic for their ability to go online, customize a folding cane. You can even get it with different types of colors, different types of tips, and all that fun stuff. Anyway, thank you for watching, and good luck.